as already said by Mr. Belogas, I work with the Shipping Deputy Ministry at the Marpol Division, dealing with the ballast water management as well as Marpol issues and recycling. And I will try to shed some light on the Ballast Water Management Convention, which is, although it's a convention already in force for 2 years, we keep on getting questions and inquiries about the implementation, which is a kind of alarming because although you are audited, you are inspected, you are surveyed, that you implement the convention, you still have some dark spots. So I will start by giving a small, let's say, information, and then during the discussion we can shed some additional light on the convention. So, okay. The ballast water management is in force since 2017. Cyprus endorsed the convention in 2018, November 2018. This convention provides for 2 methods of ballast water management. The ships are required to gradually comply by each one method. Of course, by implementation, you have to just change out the water which you have taken in from the Indian Ocean before discharging it into Limassol port. You have to change it and bring it into the one quality accepted by the local species. But then at some time you have to install the treatment plant, and then everything will be simplified, I would say. This taking gradual completion until 2024. Currently is connected to the IOPP renewal inspections, and this was a very clever way to do it. The key issue for this convention is that, one of the key issues is that the flag administration has restricted jurisdiction over exclusions. And we're going to discuss this later on. So, as I said, you can practice ballast water management just by exchanging the water you already carry in your ballast tanks, which poses a lot of, let's say, work and risks, I might say. If you are going to install a system, then you have to install only approved systems. Unfortunately, we noticed that some systems already on board, they are only approved by the state where the manufacturer is cited, which is not always a good thing. There is not an individual or independent surveying or approving system. Then, in order to install the system, you have to go to a shipyard, which is, again, an additional task and is not really easy to coordinate. And then you have completed everything, you have the system, then you have to undergo the commissioning test. Commissioning test is another thing which will give you a guidance or whether the manufacturer or the installer did really do a good job or not. And that your system, and this is the most difficult task, that your system really produces, or let's say discharges only what is allowed to discharge. This requires testing, sampling, testing, analyzing. Hopefully the results are okay, which is an indication, but is valid for the time of the commissioning. This is one detail on it. Let's say that you are now allowed to do exchange. Then you have 3 options how to do it. Let's say that you are coming from Suez Canal, you are coming to Cyprus, or you are bound for Cyprus or Greece. Then you have to choose an area which is 200 miles away from the nearest land on a depth of 200 meters. If you can find that area, fine, you start doing that exchange when you are sailing that area. If you cannot find that, then you go to another area which is 50 miles, minimum 50 miles offshore, but again with a depth of 200 meters, likely Mediterranean, you can find that. But again, if you cannot find that, then you have to contact the coastal state or the nearest coastal state to tell you which area they have identified as the appropriate area to make the ballast, the water ballast exchange. For information, in Cyprus, we haven't yet, we're about to set one area. But then you have two methods which are allowed. The one is sequential method, and the other one is the flow-through. Nobody can say if the one is better than the other, but for when I'm referring, now I'm addressing to ex-seafarers or naval architects, they will tell you that the sequential method might pose an additional risk to the ship than the flow-through method. But then it's a combination of what equipment you have on board, what is your loading status, what is your stability status, and all that. The fact is that on either method, the ship is subject to additional stresses, additional shear forces, and then the crew has to work additional hours in order to perform this task. Now, if you are sailing on a ship in the North Sea, where you are calling at the port every 30 hours, 24, 30 hours, then you can understand that the rest hour of the crew is really put in a little bit of jeopardy if they have to do this task as well. You are overloading your ballast pumps. You only have two of them. Sometimes they are used also for the fire, to feed the fire lines and small ships. And then at some times, you have to extend the voyage time in order to be able to complete the task of the voyage time, of the ballast exchange. You have to be careful when you are drafting your ballast water management plan on this. My advice is don't get a generic made ballast water management plan. Many of them exist. Take a custom made, pay some additional money, have it on your specific ship needs. Now, you also have the installation of the ballast water treatment system, which has to be compulsory by 2024, depending on the age of the ship, depending on your survey status and on your survey plan and all that. But latest date is 2024. The treatment systems must be approved either by flag, either by another party which is a member to the Ballast Water Management Convention. And this is a little peculiar because we have the manufacturer mostly located in the Far East, where they don't really have so many ships, but then we in Cyprus, we have to accept the system made in Korea or in China. Sometimes, percentage-wise, these systems, they do fail their job, but regulatory-wise, we have to accept them. And then we have how do we check the compliance on this system? By the plain system is evaluated by analyzing the water, the discharged water. But then we have the system which is using active substances, which have to be approved by the IMO. This is why the systems are not really very much in favor by the ship owners. And additionally, we install the system, we do all the tests, but then the posted controller has jurisdiction over that. They can always challenge the quality of the discharged water. They can ask you for analyzing. The regulation says that the system must not be delayed due to this, but this is only words written in a paper. Reality is quite different, unfortunately. Now we come to the issue of non-applicability. There are very few cases where the convention is not applicable to ships. First rule, ships who are not designed to carry ballast, very few of them. Or ships which have a permanent ballast, like the Ro-Ro passenger, which is a good example. All the other ships, their exclusion is depending on the area of their activity. For example, only the coastal state has jurisdiction over excluding a certain ship from the provision of the convention if that ship is working solely on the waters under their jurisdiction or under their jurisdiction in the high seas. Ships who are doing a plain trade, Greece, Cyprus, they cannot be excluded just by being there. They have to get a separate exclusion from Cyprus, they have to get another exclusion from Greece, based on a risk assessment, which then the nearby states, Turkey, for example, Egypt, they may come and claim that, no, we want to be part of that exclusion. You have to demonstrate that whatever water you are taking from the Aegean Sea won't harm the water in Cyprus or my area, like Egypt, or if you take water from Aegean Sea, or Ionian Sea, then Italy has to may come and say, listen, I don't want you to do that. You have to install the system. This is one difficulty we have on a daily basis in the office about what is applicable. I mean, what is our right to exclude a ship or not, which is very, very limited. But then we have the exemptions, like I said before. Again, in very few cases, I have to clarify that the exclusion falls within the convention, but then the exceptions fall with the annex to the convention. Now, for the ships, okay, sorry, finishing. We have the ships on the fixed route, like I said before, they have the right after getting the consensus from the coastal state affected about it. And one last slide. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, but I think you cannot see. They cannot see the last slide. Okay. Anyway, I will just point out the 3 or 4 points. 2020 marks a peak on treatment plant installations. Why? Because of the sulfur cap. People are going to the ships are going to the shipyard to install the scrubber. They are making use of that opportunity to install the treatment as well. Unfortunately, the crew is not really familiar how to operate the systems. We have an issue of spares availability by the manufacturers, which really I cannot understand why. The commissioning tests according to IMO requirement are not easy to install, which is now a task which is even burdened by the coronavirus prevailing now. Thank you very much.